I'm Matt from the Pickleball Clinic, and today we're going to talk about the top 3 mistakes that are ruining your dinks. These 3 mistakes are ones that are very common among beginner and intermediate level players, but the advanced players tend to weed these out to keep their dinks very consistent. The first one is using your wrist. A lot of beginners tend to flick their wrists as they hit, so it looks something like this on the forehand side or like this on the backhand side. What happens when you flick your wrist is you're accelerating the paddle right before contact, so you tend to lose control of the ball, and that ball might pop up and give your opponent an easy chance to attack. Instead, you want to keep that wrist still and firm as you swing, and the swing should only come from the shoulders. It looks like this on the forehand or like this on the backhand side. So I'm going to hit a few dinks here, and I'll do it the improper way first, where I'm going to flick my wrist, and this ball is popping up really, really high. Now what I want to do on the contrary is just keep that wrist still. So you can see here, all I'm doing is lifting my shoulder. I'm getting under the ball and lifting it. So even if that dink comes deeper in the court, I'm able to just control it right back to my target. The second mistake is a lot of players tend to use their elbows. This one's way more relevant on the backhand side. It's a little bit less common on the forehand, but I see it all the time on the backhand side. So what happens is, when players go to swing, they'll chop at it with their elbow like this. So they get a fast acceleration right up to the ball, and they stop short after contact. That's a very, very hard motion to control and adds a lot of extra moving parts. Just like I mentioned before with the wrist, we only want to swing with the shoulder. So you're going to come under the ball and lift it. So the improper way that it's done looks something like this, where they're slicing it very hard. That ball is very, very difficult to control. Instead, we're going to keep that elbow still, so it would look something like this. And notice how my elbow remains straight throughout the entire shot as well. So I'm not bending it, I'm leaving it straight and in relatively the same position throughout the entire swing. And the third mistake that we see all the time among especially beginners, but those intermediates as well, is backing up too far to hit your shot. If your dink's gonna land beyond the kitchen line, you should stay right up on that line and hit it out of the air. So you can get low, don't let that ball bounce if it's gonna bounce on or beyond the kitchen line. A lot of players tend to back up, let a dink bounce here, and they're giving up all that extra room for their opponents to hit them in the feet. And it's also a little bit of a harder shot because you got to give it some more power to get it past the net, which you risk popping the ball up. So instead, if that ball comes up high, try to take it out of the air, right? Don't back up like I just did there, because look at all that extra room I'm giving my opponent to hit. Instead, stay in and then take it out of the air if it's going to land on or beyond the kitchen line. If you can master those 3 strategies and get those mistakes out of your game, your dinks are going to improve immensely. That's one of the key things that will help you raise your game, especially from that 3.0 level to that 3.5 or 4.0 level, because at the higher levels of the game, the players aren't using their wrist, their elbows, or stepping back on their dinks.